Hi, this is a revision video for GCSE English Literature. We're looking at Animal Farm by George Orwell, and this video gives an overview of Chapter 9. By overview, I mean a summary of events, a look at the key characters, and some analysis of important quotations. If you just need an overview of the chapter, I cover that first. So let's move over here to give a summary of events. Now, in this chapter, we learn details of Boxer and how he's ageing. We hear of the plans for retiring animals. Life is still hard on the farm in this chapter. The animals are hungry and cold. There are several more animals because the animals have bred, especially young pigs, and a schoolroom is built. Rations are reduced, but the pigs are putting on weight. There are more processions and the farm is declared a republic. Moses the raven reappears on the farm. Boxer falls ill with a lung complaint and is taken away by the horse slaughterer. And at the end of the chapter, the pigs buy themselves a case of whisky, and as readers we understand this to be from the profits from the sale of Boxer to the slaughterer. The chapter starts with a focus on Boxer. We are told that his split hoof was a long time in healing, but despite this, he refuses to take any time off work. It's interesting to note here that Boxer has only one real ambition left, which is to see the windmill well underway before he retires. Think about what he's become as a character. He is so dedicated to the cause of animalism, so fervently committed to the pigs, that he's willing to continue to push his broken body through hard labour just for the cause. We will return to Boxer towards the end of the video, but it's worth considering the words of Orwell in Chapter 2. When speaking of the pigs, he says, "Their most faithful disciples were the two cart horses, Boxer and Clover." And this never really wavers for Boxer. In Chapter 1, Boxer is described as not of first-rate intelligence, so you can see that this consistency of character has continued through the novel. As readers, we can see that he is still a faithful disciple, and we can also question his intelligence, for he accepts the diktats of the pigs without question or without a critical thought. You could juxtapose Boxer to, say, Benjamin to see the difference here. Benjamin is initially described as cynical. He is unchanged since the rebellion. He can read as well as any pig, but doesn't see the point. He remains neutral in the Snowball Napoleon campaigns. He doesn't care for the windmills, and he refuses to meddle when asked to read commandments aloud. More than once he nods his long muzzle with a knowing air. It is Benjamin who, in Chapter 9, finally reads, and this time he reads for purpose, for he reads the side of the van taking Boxer away. And although Benjamin isn't a key character in this chapter, I felt it was vital to include him here, as you can see the evident contrast between him and Boxer. The chapter moves on and we're once again told of how life was hard and the winter was as cold as the last one had been. This is a recurrent theme, especially in the second half of the novel. Our attention is drawn to the miserable conditions to highlight the constant struggle faced by the animals. We are told that all rations were reduced, that's the food allocated to each animal, except those of the pigs and the dogs. And Squealer gives a typical Squealer-style explanation here. What is most important for your analysis, though, is the line, "Squealer always spoke of it as a readjustment, never as a reduction." And we can see how the language of the pigs is carefully and deliberately planned to avoid giving any sense that the animals are being disadvantaged by the pigs' leadership. The word readjustment simply implies a change, whereas reduction would be confirmation of the food shortages, and the pigs are careful to avoid any acknowledgement of the harsh conditions on the farm. There's a careful manipulation of language in order to ensure there's no valid cause for complaint from the animals. And it's not just a matter of preventing complaint, it's about preserving the pigs' dignity and pride. Orwell once famously wrote, "Political language, and with variations, this is true of all political parties, from conservatives to anarchists, is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure wind." And this is exactly what's happening here in the novel Animal Farm. We are also shown the highly emotive language in the indirect speech of Squealer here. In those days they had been slaves and now they were free, as Squealer did not fail to point out. Notice how Squealer uses this highly emotive language when referring to life under Jones, describing their past existence as being slaves and stating that now they are free. The hunger continues through this chapter, with the description of a warm, rich, appetising scent, such as the animals had never smelt before, which wafted itself across the yard. We're told that the animals sniffed the air hungrily in the hope that they were finally being fed a decent supper, but it seems that the pigs are brewing beer and have a ration of a pint a day. We see the utter indulgence of the pigs, and the delicious smells that we're given indicate quite how lovely this must have been, even though the animals that they lead are starving. We're told that there were more songs, more speeches, more processions, all of which serve to boost the status and the ego of the pigs, which in turn serves to justify to the animals the extra rations they give themselves and the alcohol. Before we move on, I just want to draw your attention to this line. Boxer and Clover always carried between them a green banner marked with the hoof and the horn and the caption, "Long live Comrade Napoleon," because it's important to see how loyal and naive Boxer was right to the end of his sorrowful life. Now the farm is declared a republic in this chapter, and yet again Orwell is employing irony. A republic is a state with an elected leader. Of course, we see that the pigs go through the motions of an election, but there's only one candidate, Napoleon. Of course, as readers, we can recognise that this is a dictatorship. There's no opportunity to challenge the leader, and anybody who tries is promptly executed. Shortly after this, Moses returns to the farm. Remember that Moses represents the Russian Orthodox Church, and you may remember in Chapter 1 the departure of Moses represents the split between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Bolshevik Party. Well, Stalin allowed the church to re-establish itself after the Nazi invasions, partly in hope that it would help to rally support and bring Russians together. However, we also see another motivator for the pigs allowing Moses to come back to the farm, and perhaps for dictators through history to allow religion to flourish too. Moses offers the idea of hope, presented as Sugar Candy Mountain. Sugar Candy Mountain reassures the animals that there is a better life for them when they will one day rest forever. Moses points to the sky as he declares that, "Just on the other side of that dark cloud that you can see, there it lies, Sugar Candy Mountain, that happy country where we poor animals shall rest forever from our labours." He claims to have flown there and seen everlasting fields of clover and linseed cake and lump sugar growing on the hedges. Now this links closely with the idea of heaven, somewhere peaceful and attractive, and somewhere where hunger and pain will no longer be felt. Of course, this is an attractive idea and perhaps means that the animals are willing to tolerate more on the farm if the prospect of an eternity in a heavenly place lies ahead. This links closely to the famous line from Karl Marx: "Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people." I'll just put a note up here that opium is a chemical that comes from poppies and it forms the basis of the drug heroin. It's also used in medicine, mostly in drugs for pain relief. So you can see here that Marx is saying that religion is perhaps like a drug that dulls the pain of reality and perhaps gives people enough pain relief to support them in carrying on in difficult times. This is exactly the purpose that Moses serves with his description of Sugar Candy Mountain, and we're told that the pigs allowed him to stay on the farm with a beer allowance. As the chapter reaches the focus of its conclusion, we return to Boxer, who's still working as hard as ever, although we're told he looks older and is perhaps showing the signs of ageing. When he collapses with a lung problem, it is Clover and Benjamin who stay at his side. It is typically sly of the pigs to arrange to have him taken away when his allies are at work, and of course we know that they take him to the horse slaughterer and glue boiler. We need to return to chapter 1 here, for it is in Old Major's speech that we can see the sad irony of Boxer in this chapter, for Old Major says, "You, Boxer, the very day that those great muscles of yours lose their power, Jones will sell you to the knacker, who will cut your throat and boil you down for the foxhounds." And now, in chapter 9, we see this very same fate for Boxer under the regime of the pigs. You'll have studied Animal Farm as a cyclical novel, that is, a novel in which we're back in the same place at the end as where we started. But there's so much more to this than just the final scene of chapter 10. Yes, it is a cyclical novel, but it doesn't just come full cycle with one event. We see a morphing of the pigs to humans throughout the novel, in their behaviour, actions, language, rewriting of the commandments and therefore history, and then the terrible fate of Boxer. One more point before we finish. Orwell is perhaps commenting on the silence of the masses. To what extent are the animals complicit in the pigs' terrible treatment of other animals? Squealer gives an unlikely explanation of the words on the side of the van, claiming that it was due to be repainted by its new owner, the vet, and the animals seem to buy into this story as they are enormously relieved. When we consider the extent to which they understood Old Major's speech in chapter 1, including the comments about their likely fate under Jones, it seems unlikely that they would not understand what they had just witnessed. Why do they remain silent? Is it out of fear? Or an inability to gather resources without the pigs leading them? Or is it simply that the path of least resistance is the easiest? Whatever you think, it's easy to see, or clear to see, how such tyrants seize and maintain power. At the very end of the chapter, we learn that the pigs have a case of whiskey delivered, clearly purchased through the sale of Boxer to the horse slaughterer. And of course, we're just about to head into chapter 10, where, as I've just said, the novel comes full cycle. Now, we'll leave it there. I hope you're all well. I'll be back soon with our final chapter. And until then, take care and thanks for watching.